Welcome to the Girl Scouts Self-Guided Tours of Akron, brought to you by Troop 30865.
This is the Akron Attractions Bike Tour, and it will show you the fun and interesting things there are to see and do in Akron.
Even if you know all about the attractions and activities on this tour, this is a great bike ride. The route takes you around the village, along a portion of the bike path, and through our county park. It crosses over Akron's infamous Murder Creek 4 times on 4 different bridges. It passes under another bridge and through a tunnel. The route also suggests a few side hikes to see our waterfall, to discover a nature preserve, and to visit horses at a stable. The bike tour may not be suitable for everyone. Akron comes from the Greek word for high point, and we have lots of hills, so this bike tour requires some exertion. Also, part of our tour runs along some of Akron's main roads and narrow neighborhood streets. You should feel comfortable riding with traffic. Please bike carefully and follow the rules of the road. Ride with traffic and wear a bicycle helmet.
This tour is not appropriate for a car since it goes along the bike path, or for rollerblades since there are gravel parts and steep hills. It is possible to walk or run this tour. You should only listen to the tour when at a stop.
Directions to your next stop will be given at the end of each stop. You should listen to the directions and then pause the tour until you reach the next stop. If you forget the directions, stop and rewind the tour slightly to hear the directions again.
This tour was created as a YouTube video because many people are already familiar with how to play them. But we kept the video simple so you would look at the sights around you and not at your screen.
For some extra fun, we added a game that you can play during your tour. It is a type of I Spy game that we will give you a clue and you can figure out the answer by looking around you. Sometimes the answer is right in front of you, and sometimes you have to explore the area around the stop. We call the game Ride and Seek. The full tour is 8 miles long and there are 14 stops. Depending on how much time you spend at each stop, the tour should take you about 1 to 2 hours. There are several public bathrooms and water fountains along the way. The tour will start and end at Russell Park. The park is where it all began for Akron, and it seems fitting that this is where we start your tour too. Press pause until you are at Russell Park and ready to start the tour.
This is Russell Park. Russell Park is named for the village's founder, Jonathan Russell. Jonathan Russell bought this land this park is on and all the land surrounding it in 1826. He built his house and set aside land for a school, 2 churches, and a cemetery, all with this 3-acre public square at its center. Do you like to be entertained? Over the years, Russell Park has been the center of entertainment for the village and continues to be so today. The park hosts many annual events like the New Year's Eve ball drop, the elementary school Halloween parade, the Santa Band parade, and the senior prom photo event. In the warmer months, there are occasional fairs, festivals, and fundraisers. The Akron Community Band also plays in Russell Park and has been since 1850. The band has concerts every Friday evening during the summer at the bandstand. That's the octagon-shaped gazebo in the center of the park. Musicians of all ages are in the band. The bandstand is the stage for other musical entertainment too. There are midday concerts on Thursdays at noon during the summer with different musicians, mostly jazz bands. Take a stroll around the park. There are many interesting things worth checking out, like a drinking fountain for dogs, a touching war memorial, and 2 cannons, one from the War of 1812 and one captured from the Confederates during the Civil War. Do you see the path that cuts diagonally through the park? This path was part of a trail that ran across New York long before Akron was settled. This trail was created by the Native Americans and ran from the Hudson River to Lake Erie. The trail was later used by the pioneers to settle this area and beyond. Now this path is a tribute to Akron's history. Did you know the park used to have a very popular fountain that the kids used to splash in and sail their toy boats in? It had huge statues of King Neptune and nymphs riding dolphins that weighed over 2,000 pounds. Today, that fountain is the base of the bandstand. If you are playing our Ride and Seek game, we have 2 questions at the stop for you to seek the answers to. Question 1. What year was the park deeded to the village by Jonathan Russell? Question 2. What is the one-word inscription on the base of the prominent Civil War monument? Here are directions to your first stop. Cross to the other side of Main Street and ride up the hill 2 blocks to the corner of Main Street and Parkview Drive. Here you will find an octagon-shaped house called the Rich Twin Octagon House. This is one of the 2 historic museum houses in Akron. The other one, the Knight Sutton Museum, you will pass along the way at 123 Main Street. We will talk more about both when you reach your next stop at the Octagon House. Pause the video until you get there.
Are you interested in history? This is stop 1, Akron's Museum Houses. There are 2 houses to tell you about at this stop. Both of the houses are run by the Newstead Historical Society and have been made into museums. Both houses take their names from 2 of its former owners. The Rich Twin Octagon House is preserved as a museum and decorated in the style of the time. The Knight Sutton House is a museum of history as it relates to Akron. The first house, here on the corner, is the Rich Twin Octagon House. The Octagon House was built around 1850 and is on the National Register of Historic Places. The octagon-shaped house was a fad in the mid-1800s. Some believe that the octagon-shaped homes with big windows all around were good for your health because of all the sunlight and ventilation they let in. Neat features of the house include a dumbwaiter and speaking tubes. A dumbwaiter is like a small elevator for food, so it can be served from the kitchen in the basement up to the dining room on the main floor. Speaking tubes were like intercoms where you speak into one and can be heard in the other rooms and on the other floors without having to yell. There's even one in the cupola. That's a small octagon room at the very top of the house. Also, there is a small hidden space behind one of the closets with a ladder going to the lower level that is believed to have been used as part of the Underground Railroad. The house is open for guided tours on the first and third Sunday of each month from March to October. It is also open for Christmas-themed tours during the holiday season. The Knight Sutton House is the museum you passed on your way here at 123 Main Street. The museum highlights different times and aspects of Akron's history. The exhibits change each year and provide history from the local perspective through the accounts of local residents. Memories and history are presented through old newspaper clippings, historical artifacts, and unique items loaned to the museum from residents. The Knight Sutton Museum is open to the public every Wednesday as well as the first Sunday of each month from April to October. Both museums offer private tours and do special tours for Akron elementary classes. If you are playing a ride and seek game, your clue is: how many brackets are there on the cornices of this house? Here's a hint. The cornice is the underside of the roof that overhangs the house. Now it is time to head to stop 2, Akron's Airport. Cross to the other side of Main Street and ride down Townsend Street to the next intersection, which is John Street. Make a right onto John Street and just keep going straight to head to Akron's Airport. Get ready to climb your first hill. Along the way, on your right-hand side, you will pass softball fields and beach volleyball courts where local leagues play. You will be past the steepest part of the hill here and may want to rest for a minute. Pause the video until you reach the airport at the end of the road.
This is Akron's Airport. Would you like to learn how to fly? If you do, then this is the place. This stop is the Akron Airport, and they would be happy to teach you how. They have several certified flight instructors and different types of training planes. They partner with Akron School to encourage young people to enter the field of aviation. They host elementary school field trips and support high school aviation programs. They created a foundation that makes scholarships available to those who continue their education in an aviation field. On average, 4 students each year receive $1,000 scholarships. If you prefer to keep your feet firmly planted on the ground, you can watch the airplanes take off and land from here. Small planes are a regular sight in the skies over Akron. They have about 65 airplanes, including some interesting ones. They have several high-performance airplanes built from kits and a few antique planes, too. The airport is also used by other organizations for flight training. Mercy Flight, the emergency medical helicopter group, regularly flies helicopters here to practice day and night landings. The Army National Guard also occasionally practices helicopter takeoff and landing here. On the way back down the hill, stop and rest at Outlook Point. This is one of the highest points in the village. There is a spectacular view of the surrounding countryside from here. On a clear day, you can even see Lake Ontario on the horizon.
If you are playing a ride-and-seek game, your question is, who owns the land beyond the stop sign and what fun activity is not allowed here? To head to your next stop, turn around and head back down the hill. You will pass Akron's high school sports fields on your right, and shortly after you will come to a stop sign at Madison Avenue. Turn right. When you get to the next stop sign at Bloomingdale Avenue, take a right and stop at the school. This will be stop 3, Akron Central School. Pause the video until you get there.
Do you think a school can be interesting? Well, Akron's is. Akron is uncommon because it has one school that is a kindergarten through 12th grade in one building. Actually, the school is a complex of connected buildings with an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. Also, the school district area is the second largest in the state, taking in students from 3 counties. Our school and community have a proud Seneca heritage. If you were to continue along Bloomingdale Avenue for about 2 miles, you would come to the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. The people of the Tonawanda Seneca Nation are a large part of Akron's past and present. If you look at the flags flying over the school, you will see their flag, the purple and white one. This is the flag of the Haudenosaunee, also known as the Iroquois Confederacy, and the Seneca people are represented by the square symbol closest to the pole. All Akron elementary students take a native studies class to learn about the Seneca culture, and the Akron Middle and High School offers Seneca as a second language. The town, village, and school all celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day on Columbus Day. Behind the school, beyond the fields at the tree line, there is a long, steep ridge. This ridge is part of what's called the Onondaga Escarpment. The escarpment is locally known as the Ledge and runs from Albany to Buffalo, sometimes getting as high as 245 feet. You just came down from the top of the escarpment when you were at the Akron Airport. Akron is largely what it is today because of the Onondaga Escarpment. This is the reason for Akron's hills, caves, and waterfalls. Also, some of the minerals that make up the escarpment are limestone and gypsum. These are the minerals that brought people and prosperity to Akron in the mid-1800s and continued through the turn of the century. Limestone is the main ingredient in the once famous Akron cement that was used in so much of the major construction during the time. There is a protected wilderness area that runs along the escarpment. It is called the Onondaga Escarpment Unique Area. The state owns this land and created this area to preserve the escarpment and to protect rare plants that depend on limestone. The area is open for exploration and has about 2 miles of hiking trails. There is also a small pond called Frosty's Pond, which is a popular location for the elementary school science field trips. There is an entrance to the area behind the school in the opposite direction that you came up to this stop. To find it, go to the back edge of the field behind the tennis courts and head away from the school. Feel free to go on a nature walk and explore the escarpment. If you are playing our Ride and Seek game, this is a 3-part question. Question 1. What year was the new center entryway to the school built? Question 2. What year was the elementary school addition built? Question 3. And for an extra challenge, what year was the original high school built? Get ready to head to your next stop. Across the street from the school is Indianola Avenue. Take this short street to the end and turn left onto Oak Street, which bends to become Newton Avenue. Along the street, you will pass some of Akron's interesting and tasty businesses. You will pass Akron Rule on the left, and then come out to Ford Gum on the right. Stop when you get to Ford Gum Way. This will be stop 4. Pause the video until you get there.
Can you smell the sweet flavors in the air today? This is Ford Gum. They started in 1913, and today they are the only producer of gumballs in the United States. They also make the popular Big League Chew gum. They make 24,000 pounds of gum each day, and some days over 2 million gumballs. The annual field trip to Ford Gum is the highlight of Akron's second grade classes. They get to tour the factory and watch the whole process of gumballs being made. More than 100 people work here. Another tasty business in Akron is just a couple blocks from here. Perry's ice cream is made right here and has been around since 1918. You can actually see Perry's ice cream behind Ford Gum on the far side of the building. Perry's makes 12 million gallons of ice cream each year and has more than 100 flavors of ice cream, frozen yogurt, and sherbet. Their warehouse holds over 1 million gallons of ice cream. Perry's is still owned and operated by the Perry family. They have over 300 employees. Perry's participates in Akron's 4th of July parade every year by walking in the parade and handing out red and blue popsicles. On the far side of Perry's is Whiting Door. Whiting Door is not yummy, but it is interesting. They are the leading manufacturer in the world of roll-up doors for the back of big trucks. In 1953, the Whiting family was making roll-up garage doors when somebody asked if they could make one fit in the back of their truck. The rest, they say, is history. Today, Whiting Door has over 600 employees and is Akron's biggest business. The next time you're behind a big truck with a roll-up door, look for the Whiting emblem at the bottom of the door. Diagonally across the street, you pass another one of Akron's big businesses. Akron Rule is the largest maker of wooden rulers and yardsticks in the world. Their lumberyard stores over 1 million feet of boards. They also make many promotional products. More than 140 people work there. If you are playing a ride-and-seek game, you have 2 related questions, which are: what is the name of the road that Ford Gum is on, and when did Ford Gum celebrate its centennial? Now you will head to stop 5, the Akron Newstead Bike Path. From here, continue on Newton Avenue. The road will bend to the left. Stop at the stop sign. This is Eckerson Avenue. Turn right and take it to the end. This is Cedar Street. Across the street is the start of Akron's bike path. You will see a sign with a map of the bike path. This is your next stop. Pause the video until you get there.
All aboard! Welcome to the start of the bike path in Akron. The bike path is where the railroad tracks once were and where the train went through Akron in the 1800s. The train station in Akron was right across the street. Look across the street at the private road that lines up with the bike path. The tracks used to continue over there, and the train station was about where the road ends. If you took the bike path for about 2 miles, you would come to where an old train crossing called Akron Junction used to be. The path splits here and continues along both old train lines. This tour will only go along the bike path for half a mile to the first street, but on this part you will cross an old train bridge over Murder Creek. The bike path is part of the Rails to Trails initiative, which converts old unused railroad tracks to public bike paths and nature trails. The bike path takes you through farmland, wooded areas, and even a golf course. Birds and other wildlife are all around. Our bike path connects up with the town of Clarence's bike path, so you can bike all the way to Transit Road. New bike paths are still being created from those old abandoned railroad lines, so keep your eyes open for more bike trails coming to Akron. During the winter months, parts of the bike path are used for Akron's many snowmobile trails. Akron has a snowmobile club called the Northern Erie Snowseekers, and they maintain 120 miles of snowmobile trails. These trails connect up with other trails, and you can ride a snowmobile all the way to the Adirondack Mountains or down to Pennsylvania. Have you ever played bocce ball? On your ride here, you pass 2 bocce ball courts across the street by where the train station used to be. These are for public use, and there are 2 sets of bocce balls you can use at the Village Inn. You can see the Village Inn from here if you look up Cedar Street to your right. Give it a try. It's fun. If you are playing a ride-and-seek game, your question is, what is the total length of the Akron Newstead bike path? Now it is time to head to your next stop. Ride along the short but scenic half-mile stretch of the bike path. Stop when you come to the first street, Jackson Street. Turn left onto Jackson Street. Be sure to ride on the right side of the road. At the stop sign at the bottom of the hill will be Buell Street, one of Akron's main roads. Cross Buell Street carefully and go directly across to Brooklyn Street. This is a quiet street and lesser-known entrance to Akron Falls Park. Stop when you get to the entrance to the park, another bridge over Murder Creek. This is stop 6. Pause this video until you get to the sign at the entrance to the park.
How does a party in the park sound? Akron Falls Park is a county park, and there are many shelters and grills to use for parties and picnics. There are many playgrounds and lots of open space for games too. The perfect setting for a party. The park is in walking distance from the school, and many class picnics are held at the park. Akron Falls Park makes up a huge part of the village of Akron, almost 1/4 of the village. There is so much to tell you that you will stop 5 more times in the park to hear about specific places. This stop will introduce you to the park in general. Just so you know, there are several public bathrooms and water fountains in the park in case you need to stop. The facilities are open May 1st to October 15th. The park is an ideal place to explore nature. The park is home to lots of wildlife, and there are plenty of wooded areas and trails to discover. Murder Creek runs through the middle of the park, and of course, there is a waterfall. Are you familiar with geocaching? Geocaching is played around the world and is a scavenger hunt game that uses your smartphone or other portable electronic device to find hidden treasure. You need to download a geocaching app to play, and there are many free ones. The hidden treasure is called the cache. You find the cache by using the app to navigate specific latitude and longitude coordinates. Once at the location, you search for the cache the good old-fashioned way, looking up, down, under, and between. The cache is usually some type of waterproof container, some big, some small, some easy to find, and others hard to find. There is usually a logbook inside to sign proving that you found it. You can also log that you found it online. Sometimes there are small treasures or trinkets inside to trade. There are 2 million geocaches hidden around the world, and we have several right here in Akron, including a few in Akron Falls Park. If you want to play, just check out geocaching.com. The park has an upper and lower part that are divided by the escarpment. This is the lower part of Akron Falls Park, where you are leveled with Murder Creek. You will now ride alongside the creek to hear more about the spooky name at the next stop. If you're playing a ride-and-seek game, we have 2 questions for you, an easy one and a hard one. What time does the park open? How many rungs does it take to get to the shoulders of the rodeo clown? Ride alongside the park until you reach the rocky gravel trail. Continue on this trail, but be considerate of others walking on the trail. It will take you along Murder Creek and through a short tunnel under the bridge. Stop when you get in the tunnel. This is stop 7.
Pause the video until you get there.
Do you like ghost stories? Well, there are several spooky murder stories involving Murder Creek. Murder Creek runs diagonally through the middle of the village of Akron. Its unusual and infamous name comes from an incident that occurred along the creek. In 1806, when the land here still belonged to the Senecas, a Seneca man was acting as a guide for a land surveyor, and something went wrong. The men fought, and in the scuffle, one of the men was killed. No one knows for sure which one died. People began referring to this area of the forest as the creek where the murder took place, and that evolved into the name Murder Creek. There is another murder story that has been passed down for almost 2 centuries, and is called The Legend of Murder Creek. It was first told by the Seneca people and was later written down in 1919 in a biography about the life of General Eli S. Parker, a United States general in the Civil War, and a Seneca man from Akron. This murder story is also a tragic love story. This is the story. In the spring of 1820, a man named John Dolph built a log cabin close to the creek. One evening in October, John and his wife heard a shriek from the woods. John opened the door and saw an Indian girl running towards him, breathlessly yelling, "Save me! Please save me!" John let her in his cabin and closed the door on a man on the outside, yelling, "Let me in!" The Dolphs hid the girl and then allowed the man in.
"My name is Sanders,"
said the man,
"and the girl is a prisoner who I am to take to authorities in Canada. Her father, a chief, placed her in my hands because she wishes to marry a bad Indian."
He looked around the cabin to see if he could find her. He couldn't, and flew into a rage, muttering,
"She shall not escape. I will find her yet."
He then left the cabin and hid himself in the woods.
Mr. and Mrs. Dolph then listened to the Indian girl's story. Her name in English was Wild Rose.
My home is near Spirit Lake, under the cliff about a mile below the Tonawanda Falls. My mother has been dead several years, and my father, chief of Senecas, has just been murdered by Sanders. For more than a year, this dreadful man has been staying around Spirit Lake begging me to marry him. I love Grey Wolf, and will become his wife very soon. Sanders told me that rather than see me the wife of a Seneca, he would murder me and all who stood in his way. My father was going to the Cattaraugus Nation to avoid any trouble. Grey Wolf was going to meet us there. When we reached the creek, my father sat down to rest. Sanders came up behind us and felt sorry for his past conduct. He wished me happiness in my life with Grey Wolf. The man spoke so nicely he tricked us. When I turned to look eastward, I heard a blow strike and a groan. Quickly I turned around to see my father laying dead on the ground, with Sanders standing over him, with a club in his hand. I fled into the forest with him close behind me, yelling he would kill me too. Here I am, and no rest.
The Dolphs located Grey Wolf and informed him of the tragedy. He came to his sweetheart, and together they journeyed to her father's grave where Mr. Dolph had buried him. Suddenly Sanders appeared from behind a tree. He and Grey Wolf struggled with a knife and tomahawk, until Sanders fell from losing too much blood. He was dead. Grey Wolf tried to speak to Wild Rose, but instead staggered forward and fell. They had both died at her father's gravesite. Mr. Dolph heard her cry. He found her on her knees, sobbing. He then buried both bodies and comforted Wild Rose. She often went to visit the graves of her father and sweetheart to chant her grief. One day the Dolphs missed her. They went out to the graveyard and found her laying upon the grave of Grey Wolf, dead of a broken heart. She was buried beside the graves of her father and sweetheart. As the legend goes, if you stroll along Murder Creek at midnight, you may hear the voices of the two lovers as they wander over the new dust on the ancient trail. Death united them in a bond the years have not broken. Before you head to your next stop, there is one more spooky but true murder that occurred on Murder Creek, in this very area, on Halloween of 1890. This one involved the murder of a young girl by a young woman. The trial took place in Buffalo and was big news. The woman would have been the first woman to die by the electric chair if she was found guilty. She was not found guilty by reason of insanity and sent to the Buffalo Insane Asylum. She left the asylum after 2 years, and no one knows what happened to her after that. For details on this tragic and spooky story, there are several articles and videos that can be found on the web.
If you are playing our Ride and Seek game, your question is, what year was the bridge built? Here's a hint. You may want to head uphill and look out over Murder Creek to find your answer.
Now it is time to head to your next stop. Continue on the trail until it meets the park road again and stop when you get to the bridge that goes back over Murder Creek. This will be stop 8. Pause the video until you get there.
Who doesn't love a waterfall? The park is named for the waterfall, so you know it's beautiful. It is especially beautiful when the water is really flowing, like in the spring after the snow melts. There is a footpath to the waterfall just on the other side of this bridge, on the left as you look up the hill. It is an easy hike that runs along the creek and is worth the trip. If you choose not to hike to the falls at this stop, there will be another opportunity at the next stop, and the hike is shorter. At the previous stop, you heard about the Onondaga Escarpment. You have experienced hills and the ridges created by the escarpment firsthand on your bike. The waterfall is where Murder Creek falls over the escarpment. Remember also that the escarpment is where the limestone for making Akron cement comes from. But getting limestone wasn't as simple as picking up rocks. It had to be mined from the escarpment. There used to be several entrances to the old cement mines along the escarpment, and the tunnels are still there. They go down about 60 feet and are estimated to be beneath 25 acres of this area. The entrances to the mines are now filled with water or closed off to prevent anyone from going exploring them. The mines are dangerous because you could easily get lost in the maze of pitch-black tunnels. Look back towards the lake that you just rode along to where the lake meets the creek. Did you know there used to be a huge train trestle bridge here used for transporting the limestone from the mines? It crossed over the creek and spanned this gorge created by the escarpment. The bridge was 480 feet long and 60 feet high. The lake you just rode along is a favorite spot for fishing and crayfishing. If you continue on this road in the other direction, the part that you have not been to yet, it runs along the creek towards the waterfall and loops back here. This is the rest of the lower part of Akron Falls Park that is at creek level. Ride around the lower part of the park or take a hike to the falls. Both are great excuses not to head up the steep hill to the upper part of the park yet. There is no ride-and-seek clue at this stop either, but we will have extra ones at future stops to make up for it. It's time to head up that steep hill to your next stop. We recommend that you walk your bike up this one. At the top, make a left to continue up the hill. Ride along the right side of the road until you see a sign for a trail to Akron Falls that is on the left side of the road. Cross the road and stop in the parking lot just beyond the sign. This is stop 9. Just before you reach this stop, you will pass the rock garden. This is a peaceful place to take a rest, and we will talk about this too at your next stop. Pause the video until you get there.
You made it! This stop is where the shortest trail to Akron Falls can be found. The trail ends with a clear view of the waterfall straight ahead. What you can't see from here is that there are actually 2 waterfalls. The one you can see from the trail is called Lower Falls, but there is also an Upper Falls. If you go to the end of this parking lot and look up the hill past Shelter 8, you will see a tall fence. The top of Upper Falls can be seen from this fence when the view isn't blocked by leaves. The rest of this waterfall is blocked from view because of its horseshoe shape and a large rock outcrop. If you continue along this fence, you can stand alongside the top of the waterfall and see peaks of it through the fence. Unfortunately, due to danger, access to this waterfall is prohibited. These days, the creek and the waterfalls can run pretty low during a dry season, but back when this area was wilderness, the water rushing over the falls in Murder Creek wasn't just beautiful, it was powerful. It was this power that helped create Akron. Before the discovery of its other natural resources, water power is what made this area desirable to settlers. Water wheels were used to create power to run mills. Akron had cement mills, lumber mills, and a flour mill for making the once famous Akron flour. Akron flour was sold throughout the country and had a picture of Akron Falls on the sack. Across the road, there's a playground with one of the 2 big jungle gyms in the park, a fun stop for younger kids. Also across the road and down the hill a bit, you pass the rock garden. This is a peaceful, shady place to rest and maybe have a snack or drink. There's a gazebo to sit in that looks over the garden's landscape paths and cascading brook. Small weddings are occasionally held there. If you look at the post of the rock garden sign, you'll see a small plaque that says, "Passport to Family Wellness." Akron Falls Park is one of the Erie County parks that is part of the Passport to Family Wellness program. Erie County and other wellness groups want to encourage healthy activity by hiking the Erie County parks. Passport booklets can be picked up at local Wegmans grocery stores, and the booklet has maps with suggested walks to take in the parks. When you get to the top of the hill, you will be at Skyline Drive. The name of the street gives you an idea of how high you've been biking. You're almost there. If you're playing a ride-and-seek game, your question is, who is the monument in the rock garden dedicated to? Continue up the hill again to get to your next stop. When you reach the fork at the park entrance, stay to the right. Cross over Skyline Drive to the entrance to the Akron Sports Complex. Continue to the park until you reach the stop sign. This is stop 10. Pause the video until you get there.
This is the Akron Sports Complex.
The park is even bigger than it looks. This 132-acre park includes the woods beyond the sports fields. The park is actually more woods than open fields. Throughout the undeveloped part of the park, there are trails that are maintained for hiking and biking. In the winter, these trails become part of Akron's network of snowmobile trails. Feel free to take a side trip into the woods, but be careful to keep your bearings. It is easy to get lost. The park is home to the Akron Soccer League and Akron Sports Baseball. This is one of the 2 locations where the Akron Soccer League plays and holds its huge Kick It First soccer tournament. The tournament is held every year the first weekend in May, and there are more than 20 soccer fields. Hundreds of kids from several states come to play. At the end of this road, there are 4 baseball diamonds that are part of Akron Sports Baseball. Both organizations give hundreds of kids the opportunity to learn and play ball in our small town. If you are playing our ride-and-seek game, your question is, what children's cartoon character can you find here? Hint, he's purple. Or, what is the web address for one of the local sports organizations? Turn around and head back to the entrance. When you get back to Skyline Drive, take a right. Just ahead on your left is Akron's outdoor skating rink. This is stop 11.
Pause until you get there.
Do you like to ice skate? Akron has a free outdoor ice rink in the winter. The rink is in the low area on the other side of the lodge. The area is flooded in winter, and when the temperature is cold enough, there's a natural ice rink. The far end of the rink is usually used for ice hockey. There are lights for evening skating, and the lodge has a large fireplace to warm up at and picnic tables for resting or eating or putting on skates. The name of the lodge is Cummings Lodge. Cummings is the last name of one of the prominent local families that mined limestone and produced cement. In the warm months, the lodge is often used as the meeting or starting place for events like nature walks. There is a guided walk through the park that is given by the county twice a year that starts and ends at the lodge. There's also a certified 5K course that starts at the lodge and is sometimes used for charity benefits. Would you like some ice cream? There's a seasonal ice cream stand that is a short detour from your next stop. You'll be heading back to the park entrance, which will be your second right. But if you take the first right on State Street and go over the bridge, the ice cream stand is just beyond the car wash on the left. Even if it is not ice cream season, you should go. When the leaves have fallen off the trees, there's a clear view of Upper Falls from behind the ice cream stand. There is no ride-and-seek clue at this stop. Next, turn around and head back to the entrance to the park. Take the second right to re-enter the park. This will be a nice, long downhill ride. Head down the hill carefully. The road will end at the second stop sign. Be sure to stop at the first stop sign since cars coming up the steep hill do not have to stop. After the second stop sign, go straight across the street to the tennis court. This is stop 12. Pause until you...
This part of the park has a lot of different activities to offer. Here, there are 2 tennis courts in good condition and open to the public. Across the street is the second of the 2 large jungle gyms in the park. To the right of the playground, there is a big, long hill with a shelter at the top. In the winter, this is Akron Sledding Hill. From little kids on snow tubes to big kids on snowboards, this is a hot spot on a cold, snowy day. The hill is wide enough that there is room for several sleds at once. Great for races. The road you just crossed over is Parkview Drive. To the left, out of the parking lot, you will see a bridge. This is the same bridge you rode under earlier, and there is a beautiful view of the park lake from the bridge. This road would take you back to the Octagon House, your first stop. You will be turning right onto Parkview Drive. This is the last stop in Akron Falls Park. On the way to your next stop, you will pass more parkland and basketball courts. You want to shoot some hoops? This is the full-size basketball court with baskets at both ends and is open to the public during park hours. You may want to rest at the parking lot here because there is a deceptively long uphill climb to get there. If you're playing a ride-and-seek game, your question is, what Disney princess might you find riding down the sledding hill?
When leaving the tennis court parking area, turn right onto Parkview Drive. Continue to the stop sign at the end of the road. You will be at Beale Street. Beale Street has a lot of traffic, but it is a wide road with a parking lane that is usually empty. Take a right onto Beale Street and continue until you reach Highwind Horse Farm on your right. This will be stop 13. Pause until you get there.
Would you like to learn how to horseback ride? This is Highwind Farms. There are about 50 horses here. They specialize in Arabian horses. They breed, train, show, and even birth Arabian horses, but they board horses of all types. They also give riding lessons. They have huge barns and an enclosed training area. They are the largest landowner in the village with 50 acres. The farm has been in Akron for over 100 years. It is owned by the Sutton family and they welcome visitors. No appointment necessary. Why don't you take a break and visit with some horses? If you are playing our ride and seek game, your question is, what is Mr. Sutton's middle initial? From here, continue on Buell Street. You will cross over Murder Creek one more time. The road will bend to the right and become Main Street, the main road through the village. On the right-hand side, just a few buildings up, is the Newstead Public Library. Stop here. There are benches and a bike rack. This will be stop 14. Pause until you get there.
Doesn't the street look a little like an old western cowboy town? This is Akron's old-fashioned Main Street. It looks this way because it was built around the same time as the gold rush towns of the mid-1800s. But gold wasn't the mineral that brought our town fame and fortune. It was limestone. Akron cement was well known as the best and was sold all over. The village and its businesses boomed during this time. Today, Main Street is still Akron's business district and has many good places to eat, shop, and play. If you're hungry, we have restaurants, diners, sub shops, pizzerias, and a coffee house. Or you could shop in our specialty gift shops, antique stores, and consignment shops. If you want to relax, you could get a good massage or a mani-pedi, or step into the library and relax with a good book on their porch overlooking Murder Creek. Occasionally, Main Street is closed to cars for events. Akron has several parades along Main Street, including 4th of July, Memorial Day, and Homecoming. Akron also holds an annual street fair and sidewalk sale in June with vendors, live music, and barbecue chicken. Every Thursday night during the summer is cruise nights, and the street is closed to regular car traffic but open to fancy old cars of all kinds. This is the last stop on the bike tour. Consider taking a walk up the street and checking out some of the local businesses. You've earned a bite to eat. There are bike racks here at the library and up the street at Russell Park where you started this tour. If you are playing our ride and seek game, we have 2 more questions to wrap up this game. The first question is, find the pathway to knowledge, then find Milo's brick in the path. What was Milo born as, and what did he die as? The second question. Find the white building diagonally across the street. It was a bank in the 1800s. In 1900, the bank moved and became the Bank of Akron. What was the name of the bank when it was in the white building? A few short blocks up, you will come back to Russell Park on the left-hand side of the road. Russell Park is the end of our bike tour.
On behalf of Girl Scout Troop 30865, thank you for taking our bike tour. We hope you enjoyed the ride and found the information fun and interesting. If you want to learn more about the history of the area, try our driving tour of the village and surrounding area.
We'd like to give a special thank you to our project advisors, Mary Beth Whiting, curator of the Knight Sutton Museum, and Nancy Eckerson, former Newstead town historian. Thank you to the Newstead Historical Society for all their help with this project and for hosting our webpage for these tours. And thanks to Interweb Technology Group of Akron for designing and creating the webpage. Thanks also to Peace of Mind Coffee House for allowing us to hold our meetings there when we were figuring out the route and stops. Finally, we'd like to acknowledge some of the internet resources and applications that made this tour possible. Audacity, KDN Live, Google Maps, Map My Ride, Dropbox, and YouTube. Also, we couldn't have done it without the support and help of our troop leaders and parents. Thank you so much. This tour was made by Danielle Bellis, Shauna Blackowitz, Abigail Masternack, and Evelyn Sutton.